Heyo, welcome to Ultra Retrospective. I've got bigger projects in the works right now, so here's coverage of something fairly superfluous. A 1984 theatrical clip show titled Ultraman Story. In 1967, there was a compilation film of the original Ultraman series. In the late 70s, Akio Jisoji did his own compilation film. There was one structured around Zafi at some point. And now in 1984, we have a movie that takes clips from every past live-action show, but actually has new footage to better link them, and with a semblance of a story. The film follows Ultraman Taro, starting the film as a kid, and eventually maturing into an adult, as he learns what it means to be an Ultraman, and all the humility that entails. Intercut with his teachings is footage of various Ultramen doing battle on Earth, presented as new events that are currently happening. Yeah, it may use stock footage, but the context isn't the same. There's no indication that they're also living a double life with a human form. It's all supposed to be them just traveling to Earth to fight. Some of the stock footage is presented as memories that Taro is watching, meaning you're now watching someone else watch stock footage. Naturally, that means there are a lot of fight scenes in this movie, and your mileage may vary on whether that's a good thing or not. Don't get me wrong, I like a good fight scene when it's catharsis for a story, but if that's what most of the substance of your movie entails and whatever story that's there isn't terribly compelling, then it gets exhausting to watch after a while.
Taro, これを見なさい.
Now, I know in my Godzilla's Revenge video, I made it a point to say I didn't mind the use of stock footage in that film, considering the context in which it was used. But with Ultraman's Story, it's, well, a different story. I think what makes All Monsters Attack work for me is that all the surrounding elements work decently enough. The movie is saying something about the state of living many kids had to endure at the time. So much of this film revolves around this reused stock footage. It's presented as if it's happening for the first time without the justification of it being a dream sequence. And the connecting tissue, the new footage, doesn't justify itself. It's a fairly standard story that doesn't challenge expectations, which I wouldn't mind if part of the payoff wasn't getting to see more stock footage. Like, seriously, they try to infer that the Mephilus Ultraman fights is the same that Taro fights, despite having such differing suit quality. This is where the film's use of stock footage fails. There's an inconsistency that is impossible to ignore. Even without the knowledge that this is all stock footage, there's a palpable sense that all of this isn't gelling into a cohesive or even coherent whole. It all definitely feels like disconnected footage they've Frankensteined together. It's especially obnoxious when entire segments consist of Taro watching the stock footage. At least that means we get to see Taro punch a hole through Mephilus's stomach again. At least this is all building towards a finale with an actual sequence featuring largely new footage, with Taro having to work together with his fellow Ultra Brothers to take down a new threat in the form of Judah, a villain who originates from Andromelos. I admittedly don't know much about that show, but I guess it's neat that they're further expanding the universe with this character. I know they appeared later in the series, but I honestly completely forgot they existed.
そんな奴がいたなんて、私は今まで知りませんでした。知らなくて当然だ。
It's a shame that it took until the last 15 minutes for actual new substantial content. The scene at the end, where the Ultra Brothers do battle with Grand King, offers a look into what a mid-80s Ultraman series would have looked like, had Tsuburaya Productions not been in financial turmoil at the time. In fairness, they're kinda always in financial turmoil, but, you know, this was extra bad. It probably would have helped if this sequence didn't follow such a poorly paced film. You really have to earn a big climactic battle like this, and I don't think the film does. So yeah, Ultraman Story is a slightly rough 90-minute excursion. If you're gonna watch this one, I recommend either putting it on in the background as noise or just skipping to the last 15 minutes. You'd be skipping Taro's alleged character development, but it's not much of a loss, honestly. Ultraman Story is not a good film, but it's not completely unenjoyable. It's possible to find enjoyment in the numerous fight scenes I've already seen. It's just that I was already done with it 50 minutes in, and there was still another 40 minutes left. As for this movie's legacy, I guess it has more than I thought when I initially wrote the Taro video. It's the first time the Land of Light has looked coherent in the series. This more crystallized version would be updated upon later. I saw the Ultraman Taiga movie a week after the Taro video was rendered, and they kinda replicate the superhorn charge seen in this film. I guess Taro's characterization has largely stayed in line with how this film presents it rather than the show, too. Sure, shows like Mebius reference things that happened to the show as well as the existence of Zat, but considering they didn't have Saburo Shinoda to reprise his role since Taro's conclusion, they've had to rely on this film for much of the character's backstory. Hell, he's had the same voice actor since this film. Judah and Grand King would reappear later too. But yeah, that's all I have to say about Ultraman Story. If you want a movie that's full of monster fights that's actually fun, then check out the Mega Monster Battle movie. I'll talk about that sometime too. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. It's probably not long enough to have mid-rolls, but whatever, I wanted to put out something while I'm working on a big project. Awfully fast turnaround on this video too. I wasn't expecting it to be so quick. But yeah, there isn't that much to say about Ultraman Story. It's kind of a whatever film. Anyways, let's get on to the patron readout. Krazak53, Komen, Queer Kaiju, Radiant GV, Chronicler Waba, Alcoholic Alligators, Ryan Santa Cruz, Avok Robot, The Antagonist, Richard Ciavardon, Ziggy Zigra, It's God Z, Big Odilo, An Actual Demetrodon, CMG, Red Comet Harry, and Marpzilla. Thank you very much.